I need to do a bit of a course overview. So I am going to share. So here we go. So for today, we're going to go through the course structure, expectations, and what the assessments are. I want you guys to feel, welcome and encouraged to participate. You've all been great in terms of raising your hands and posting in the chat and completing the polls. So thank you very much. And so we'll be continuing to kind of do some exercises in our online environment. We want to make a personal connection to the ideas in tourism. So we're going to have some exercises that are going to take you back to some of your experiences or maybe forward to some experiences you want to have. And I want to talk a bit about some of the structure that's different from the textbook. I know that most of you have been to our Moodle site. You'll have noticed that there is a downloadable free textbook, and it's great. But I want to just introduce one concept today that's going to form the underpinning of how we think about tourism through the rest of the course, and that's Leiper's tourism system. So everybody, I think, innately has an understanding of what tourism is all about, but there are some different approaches when we want to be in industry working in tourism, when we want to study tourism, and when we want to teach tourism. So there is a systems model that's, I find, really super helpful in delivering that. So I'll talk a bit about that today. In terms of the course, there are several learning objectives, and these are on the Moodle site as well, and I'll talk about the Moodle site in a second. But we're going to talk about the structure, trends, and the importance of the 8 sectors of the tourism industry from a systems perspective. Again, we're going to describe the common components of tourism, some theories around travel motivations, why do we want to travel, and tourism planning and development concepts. There are a ton of economic and environmental impacts, both positive and negative, of tourism, and we'll explore those. There's some significant organizations that are important to understand in tourism. The United Nations World Tourism Organization, for example. And I'll give you a brief overview of how that sector structure works towards the end of the session today. We're also going to discuss some of the key trends and future issues that impact tourism, both in Canada and around the world. So essentially, that's what we're trying to convey through the entire course. And by the end of our sessions, you should be able to address each of those outcomes. Now, this is what everybody always wants to know, and there's always 1,000 questions at the beginning of a course about how am I going to assess learning that happens in the course. So there are a number of weekly activities. So we are going to be together for about 7 weeks, and each week there's a couple of deliverables that you guys are going to have to do asynchronously, which is outside of the classroom. There are weekly quizzes. So these are short quizzes covering key concepts that are part of the assigned readings. So each week you're going to be assigned a series of chapters. For example, this week we're going to cover 3 chapters from the textbook. And then by the end of Friday, you'll have had to have completed the weekly quiz that covers those chapters. The quizzes are made up of 30 questions. You're going to have 30 minutes, and you've got 2 attempts, and we'll take your best grade for each one of those. There are also weekly assignments, so you'll be getting one of those assigned today in the second half of the session. And those are individual assignments, and you'll upload your response to those assignments to Moodle by midnight each Friday. There's also experiential reflections. So there are going to be 3 experiential assignments throughout the term. This is where you're actually physically going to have to go and do something, or there'll be an online virtual assignment, and then you'll be asked to submit your personal reflections on what you learned through those experiences. And of course, it wouldn't be college without a group assignment, and this is a case study analysis and presentation. So there's no real written paper that goes with this per se, but it's more of a group activity where you're given an issue related to one of the key sectors in tourism. You're going to do some exploratory research, perhaps build an experience in that would demonstrate your learning about this. But the grade is going to come essentially from your presentation of learning. This can take a number of forms, you'll see when we go over the assignment. I'm going to formally assign that on Thursday, as well as getting you guys into term project groups. So that you'll either present that, you'll make a short video that you can use to present that, or there's a couple of other ways that you'll be able to demonstrate that learning. The idea here is that there are a lot of people here, a lot of different learning styles, and varying levels of comfort with the idea of making presentations, especially on a format like Zoom. So I'm going to pause now and ask if there are any questions that people would like to ask. And I think throughout the course, there's sort of a couple of different ways that we can do this. One, if you would like to make a comment or ask a question, you can raise your digital hand and unmute yourself and ask your question. Or I'm quite happy to get questions at any time through the chat. I'm going to try hard to monitor the chat with people. So if you have questions or comments, don't hesitate to throw them into the chat. If for some reason I'm not getting to your question, then please raise your digital hand and make a comment that I've posted something in the chat. As always, we welcome questions and comments from everybody as we go through that. So just before I move on to the next piece of the course overview, were there any questions about the assessment model that we're going to use or the outcomes for the course? Passing grade. Thank you, Harjas. Yeah, so in this course, because we're a first-year course, we're a survey course, you need to achieve a grade of 50% or more across all of the activities. So your overall average in the course has to be 50% plus 1 to receive a grade, a credit in the course. Javier says, do we have to do the presentation? Can we just hand in the case study? So there has to be some presentation format, whether it's a live presentation via Zoom, a short YouTube video, or an annotated voiced over PowerPoint presentation submission. There has to be something there that identifies each of the members of the group individually so that I know that it's you making the presentation, that you're in the video, that there are photos of your group members or something along those lines that identifies each of the people in the project. That's to sort of say that, well, you can't really just have AI spin up a paper and submit that. So yeah, there has to be some individual element of you. Great. So a couple of good questions there. Normally people ask me a question about how are we assigning the groups. I'm going to go over that in a minute when we go through the Moodle site, because there are some activities that you're going to have to do on the Moodle site as well. But I think right now what I'll do is I'm required to go through our course outline with everybody. So we'll talk about the course outline, so I'll just share that now. This is posted on the Moodle site, so you can download it. It talks about our calendar description. You would have read that as you were signing up for the course, so I won't go through that. This is a prerequisite for the Tourism Management Diploma, so you'll have to take this course before you take some of the other upper level tourism classes. Some of you are also taking Wine and Culinary Tourism in the next summer term, and I'll be delivering that as well. So here we have the learning outcomes for the course, and those are there. So I have those on the slide, so you can refer to them in the course outline. I'd keep the outline at least handy so that you can refer to the different items. So we just talked about the assessment, for example. That's here. There's a little bit more detail here. And it talks also about the AI policy for the course. And I'll say a little bit about AI here so that we're all very clear. Generative AI tools are not really permitted for creating the work that you're going to submit without sort of specific direction from me. And we're going to work with AI this term on some of our assignments. And believe me, I absolutely love AI. It is a fabulous tool, and I think we'd be doing everybody a disservice if we didn't start working with AI as part of our education stuff. AI is great for generating ideas, places to start, some inspiration for things related to learning about tourism. I've used it, for example, to make scripts for tourism videos that I make that are related to different courses that I do, and I find it super helpful. But in the end, the videos are my work and my submission. So that's kind of my expectation for the class, is that using AI as a support is not necessarily what I would call cheating or plagiarism, but submitting something that is totally AI generated as your work would be problematic. Again, there is a required textbook. There is a link to the textbook on the Moodle site. Please download that. Again, you'll be responsible for reading those chapters that are assigned every week, and then doing the quizzes that are related to those chapters. I am going to follow along thematically with the textbook, but I'm not going to present specifically what's in the textbook. So your learning in the course will be a combination of what's written in the textbook. The key terms in particular is what the quizzes are based around. But a lot of the learning is going to happen outside of the textbook as part of attending the class. So your attendance here, and again, thank you to all of you who are here, is going to really be a big determinant in your success in the course. Again, the quizzes are based on the book, weekly assignments. There's 7 of them. They're worth roughly 5% each. Some of them are smaller and will be worth 2.5%. Some of them are larger. I think 1 or 2 of them are worth as much as 10%. And then again, there are 3 experiential assignments that are going to come up throughout the course. And you'll be given some aspect of the systems approach that you're going to apply to a topic in tourism, essentially. And again, there is a group project. So have a read here. It talks about some of the different things that we're going to look at and some of the different ways you'll be able to present your learning. So for example, it could include a live presentation to the class, making a short video presentation, or creating an annotated PowerPoint with voiceover from the group, or some other online presentation tool that you can record your group making a presentation. Submission policy. This is important. Deadlines are deadlines. I know that we're online and some of the stuff that we're going to be doing is asynchronous, but there are published deadlines in Moodle. And again, as I post the assignments, each one will have a deadline. Those deadlines are going to have a date and a time. If you miss that deadline, there is a penalty of 20% per calendar day. So you've got 5 calendar days, so that includes Saturdays and Sundays, to submit your work, or it'll be not assessed. Now, I do know that things come up in people's lives. If you need to ask for an extension of a particular deadline, I'm quite amenable to doing that if you have a good reason, for one, and 2, that you ask for that extension in advance of the deadline. I don't grant extensions after deadlines. Okay, so I hope everybody is particularly clear on that concept, because I don't want you to lose any marks for things that you didn't submit because you weren't aware of that policy. So it is written in there. And of course, we have our calendar. This calendar tells you what chapters are assigned in each session. So I've got it set up so that down the left-hand side is the actual date of the class. So we're meeting in a very condensed format. So it's really, really important that we keep on top of our course schedule. Now, this is a plan for how I intend to go through the material in the course. Sometimes that plan is going to change depending on how we're able to move through the class. And then, of course, this is what I call boilerplate. These are the course policies. Talks about plagiarism and cheating and all of that kind of stuff. So you will be responsible for reading that. Okay. Again, I'll pause now for any questions that you might have about the outline at this point before we move on to our next activity, which is going to be just to quickly go through the Moodle shell and where to find things and what to look for. So again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to post them in the chat. Raise your digital hand and I will, you can unmute and ask a question. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions popping up in the chat. So we will continue on to the next short piece here. So here's the Moodle site. You will all have been here because you had to be here to get to our course. So you will have seen some announcements from me about the course already. So again, let's see a raise of digital hands for those of you that received a couple of emails from me ahead of the start of the course. So if you did successfully get an email from me talking about when we started today, whatnot, raise your digital hand so I can see that you're there. And I need to make sure that our announcements function's working. So I see lots of digital hands. Awesome. Thank you very much, guys. I will assume that those of you who are not raising your digital hand did get those emails, but because it seems that everybody did. So again, we've got our scheduled meeting times here on the course. Just a note about our start time. We started about 5 minutes late today. I will, for the balance of the term, start exactly at 8 o'clock. If you missed that 8 o'clock start time, you may miss some activities that we're doing as part of the class, and you'll have to sort of catch up as we join in because I don't want to have to go back and recover stuff. So thanks for your raised hands, ladies and gentlemen. If you can lower your hands now, that's great. A couple of important dates. So of course, we started the term yesterday, our first class. Today, Friday, May 16 is the last day to register for summer session. So it's also the last day to drop the class and receive a refund. So you've got a few trial days here, but on the 16th, then if you have not dropped the course, then if you do drop it, you will not get a refund. Also, last day to withdraw without an academic penalty. So if at some point you decide that this really isn't for me, then you can withdraw without having it impact your transcript, but that's June 6th. And then the last day for classes is June 20th. And then there is a final exam period, but you'll note from the assessments, there's no final exam for this class. I'm not a fan of final exams. I think they're a terrible way to assess learning. And of course, we have had all kinds of issues in online exams with cheating. So there used to be an exam for this class. I've taken it out. Again, we have our course outline, which is available. Virtual classroom. If you're here, you found this link. I will make announcements throughout the course. This could be the addition of a weekly assignment. This could be just a note in a change of schedule. You know, I'm a pretty healthy person, but I do get sick from time to time. If I'm not going to be able to attend a course due to illness, I'll make an announcement here. And importantly, right below the announcements is our textbook. So you can follow this link and it will take you to the textbook page. You can view the textbook either online and read it online, or you can download the whole thing as a PDF. It's quite a large file. So I'm scrolling on my Zoom screen and nothing's happening, so I have to make sure I'm scrolling in the right spot. I did do a very short welcome video. I appreciate everyone who took an opportunity to watch that ahead of the class. If you haven't already, it's kind of a fun way to get to know me a little bit. I talk a bit about some of the things I've done in the last couple of years, traveling around the world, being a digital nomad. And there's also a pre-class survey. We'll try one more time about raising hands. Those of you that were able to access and complete the Google form, which is just some information about me, you can raise your digital hand. Thank you, Harjas. Harvier, great. Armandeep, perfect. Suknur, great. If you have not completed that survey, then I would love it if you could just take a few minutes. It's like 7 or 8 questions. It takes less than 5 minutes and is very helpful for me in terms of planning how we're going to move forward. So for those of you that have completed it, I've noted, much like we noted at the beginning of the class, most of us are in Kelowna or Vernon. There are a couple people from other places in BC. Everybody seems to have had an online course before, with varying degrees of how much you liked it or not. I'd like very much to make this a very participatory course. We'll do some exercises today. I'm a fan of using breakout rooms, so we'll have an activity coming up just shortly that's going to use breakouts there as well. Right below that, we have, and thank you, you can lower your digital hands now. I appreciate those of you that are participating in that manner. I'm going to assign the term project on Thursday, but I would like you to start thinking about your term project groups. There are a couple people in the group project space that have signed up for groups. That's great. By the end of Thursday's session, I'd like everybody to have signed up. This is due Monday, June 16th, by way of uploading anything that you are going to have to upload, so a PowerPoint for your live presentation, any media that you're going to use in support of demonstrating learning. But there is a group choice item here, and I'll just click on this. So here I've said I wanted you to sign up for a group by the end of week 2. I think I'm going to make that Thursday for everybody that we can. So here you will notice that there are a number of groups. I believe there's 10 of them in total. There's going to be a maximum of 4 people, and a list of topics that are available for your project. I am amenable to topics other than what are on this list, but I need to approve them before you can create a group and sign up for it. So have a look at the topics, see if they are of interest to you. If you're going to join a group, then I want you to communicate with people if they're already in that group, or communicate with people before you sign up for a particular topic so that there aren't any surprises. The quick question, and again, we can post this in the chat. I'd like to get a sense from the group how you'd like to be put in groups. I've got it set up now so that you can choose groups, but if you are uncomfortable with that or don't know other people in the class, how many of you would like to be assigned by me to a group as opposed to having to find other people? So if you can just in the chat say, I want to pick my own group, or I'd like to be assigned to a group by you, and then I can get a sense of how you guys want to proceed. So we have 1 assigned by the professor, 2 assigned by the professor, a couple of people who have said I can pick my own group, and someone who said I have already put myself in a group, which is great. All right, so there's quite a few people that want to get assigned by your professor or me. So that's okay. So if by the end of Thursday, those of you that are going to assign yourselves into groups, if you could have done that, and then I will take it upon myself to assign everybody else that wants me to assign them into a group. That may mean that you don't get to pick your topic, but if you email me and say, I would like to be assigned to a particular topic, can you assign some other people to a group? I'm happy to do that as well. Okay, so that's great. I put some support material there as well. So navigating online team projects, there's a PowerPoint with some helpful guides there, and also a PowerPoint guide on creating effective presentations for Zoom. I'm not going to present these as course material, but they'll be there for you guys, right? And then the rest of the Moodle page is outlined by session number. So week 1, session 1, week 1, session 2. And in each of the sessions, I have put a PowerPoint slide. These are not the ones that I'm going to use in class, but they are a helpful PowerPoint slide that cover the topics that I think are important. And it also has a link to the chapter in the online text that we're going to be using. And again, you'll be responsible for reading those, preferably prior to attending the session. I realize today is session 1. I won't ask how many of you have gone through and read chapter 1 of the textbook, but in the second session of each week, you'll find that there is the quiz, and the first one, which is due May 16th, covers chapters 1 to 3. And again, 30 questions, 30 minutes, 2 attempts, and we'll take the best grade of both attempts. I'd love to get feedback and comments from the class about how you're doing with the quizzes. They're brand new quizzes that were developed just in the last few months specifically for this course. If you find that there are any issues with questions or relevance of questions or any comments that you have as you're going through them, that would be very helpful for me. So that is essentially the overview of the course. Again, I welcome questions from you guys at any time. 40 minutes in. So there's a couple questions in the chat. So get back to our session. So my plan is that today we'll go for perhaps another hour. I think 3 hours is too long to spend in a single Zoom session. And we do have activities that are outside of the classroom for you guys to take up sort of that extra hour of learning opportunities. So just a quick activity here. So what makes a trip work? Like what kinds of things come to mind when you guys think about tourism? We're going to spend the next 6-7 weeks learning about tourism, but it would be handy for me to get a sense of what you think about tourism as we're moving into that. So if we take a minute and just think about a word or two that come to mind, and if you could post those words in the chat, we can use that to help launch our discussion of what tourism is and define what it is we're going to be studying for the next bunch of weeks. So think about what comes to mind for you guys when you think about tourism, or perhaps a slightly different approach to that question might be to say, what do we need to have to make a trip work? So we have exploring in the chat. That's great. I mean, I think there is an element of exploration to a lot of different kinds of, Imagine people exploring new places. Absolutely. People going to relax themselves, right? Getting away from our busy life. So that's kind of talking about what motivates people. So I'd love to see some more options in the chat. If you haven't had a second to respond, just what's the top thing that comes to mind? Cultural exchange, connecting with nature. Absolutely, right? There's a whole segment of tourism specifically related to doing just that, connecting with nature. What about some things that we need to have to make a trip happen? Like, are there some elements that we rely on in order to allow us to travel and be a tourist? For example, money. Yeah, good one. Go outside to explore something outside of our usual environment and learn about other cultures. Yeah, absolutely. It's all kinds of reasons to travel. What about some of the businesses that we need to help facilitate traveling? What kinds of businesses support tourism? Again, take a second and post in the chat what your thoughts are. We do need hotels, absolutely. Transportation. Some other reasons to travel, like adventure, resetting for mental health, gathering some excitement. Travel guides, awesome, yeah, absolutely. There are several different kinds of travel guides. Some are like pamphlets that we get, or websites. There's also like TripAdvisor, which is like a travel guide. But there are also actual guides, people that lead us around. Adventure activities, yeah. You sound like an exciting class, guys. So you're starting to see that tourism is fairly complex, and there's a lot of different ideas that you guys have brought forward. So thanks very much for sharing in the chat. I really appreciate that. So one of the things we have to ask ourselves is, how do we, organize this, right? Tourism is a really complex topic, right? We have a lot of ideas. So in order to kind of study tourism, it's really important to have some kind of framework that we can use to describe its different component parts. And the most valuable framework that I've come across in my career is called Leiper's tourism system. You've heard me mention that a couple of times. It's in some of our outcomes, right? But the systems approach is really important because what we're going to talk about over the next 7 weeks is you'll come to know a very complex grouping of things that make tourism happen, that makes being a tourist possible. And it's often a little bit different for every situation. So for example, think about your last trip. We talked about, the need to make bookings, the need to have a hotel or a place to stay, some kind of form of transportation, a place to go, a destination, right? And all of these things make up a system. They're all related, and somehow they have to all come together or there's no tourism, right? So for example, if you watched my welcome video, you will have heard me talk about being a digital nomad for a year. My wife and I traveled around the world. We were in 10 different countries, and in each place, we had to engage with a system of things to make that travel happen. We started from home, our normal environment. We had to undertake a lot of activities while we were at home in order to make our trip happen. We had to do a lot of planning. We had to do, look for places to stay on Airbnb. We had to go to Expedia to book flights to get places. We did a lot of looking at online reviews to figure out what kinds of different places did we want to go. I had to do a lot of planning for filming as well. And all of that's part of tourism, even though I did it while I was at home. Of course, we flew overseas. There is a transit to tourism, a sense of going from one place to another, and of course, all of the different destinations. So making all that make sense requires some thinking and planning. So here's just a quick overview of the different parts of the systems approach to thinking about tourism. And again, our course is loosely structured around this model. It's not 100%, but I'm going to kind of try to make it work as we move through the course. So number one, we need tourists. We can't have tourism without people traveling, right? So they're the human, they call them actors in this model. So the human actors who participate in tourism activities. We plan, we travel, we're in a destination. We undertake activities in that destination. Right? There's the generating region, and as that name implies, this is the place or the area, and it's like, think about a place on a map. Most of us are in Kelowna and Vernon, so that originating region or the generating region would be where we are right now. Next is the tourist route, and these are the paths that people take to get from our generating region to what our destination is. And there's a lot of things that go into what happens while we're in transit. And we'll talk more about that in a future session. And then, of course, there's the destination regions. This is where we go, and in some respects, why we travel, or a destination has to satisfy the need that drove tourists to want to leave their originating region or the generating region. And of course, the tourism industry. The tourism industry are the collection of businesses and services that provide experiences to people while they're traveling. These are the service providers for tourists. So the three key regions are the generating region, the transit route, and the destination region. And these are geographies. They're places, right? Then there are the elements of the tourism industry that facilitate tourist traveling. And in the end, there's you and me, hopefully, the tourists. And, I hope some of you guys are planning trips coming up, right? Okay, so these are the elements. So the 5 key elements, right? But how do we knit them all together? So Leiper's tourism system is a model, right? We use this visual representation of the model, and we can adapt this model to literally any tourism situation, right? And that's the power of the systems approach to thinking about tourism, is we create a model, and we can use that model to describe almost anything that can happen in tourism. So again, we have our regions, our generating region, which is where we start. We have our transit region, And note that the transit region kind of overlaps a bit with both the generating region and the destination region. And again, the destination region, or regions, because there can be more than one. So for example, on my last trip, there were at least 10, more like 20, I think, different destinations that we traveled to. All of it outside of our generating region, right? And then these geographies interact with the tourism industry. And this blue box represents the industry which overlaps all three of these key regions. So these are the travel providers, the hotels, everybody who's in the business of delivering services to tourists, right? And then, of course, we don't exist in a vacuum. We exist in an environment. And that this, you guys will have heard of different environment models. Raise your hand if you've heard of PEAST or PEST, the PEST model. Each of these contains, the political environment, the physical environment, the technological environment, social environment. So just throw up a hands up if you have heard of any of those kinds of different models that we use to talk about the environment. A couple of people. Okay, so not a lot of people raising their hands there, so we'll spend a bit of time on those environments when we get to that part of the course. Okay, so you can lower your digital hands now. But this is essentially Leiper's tourism system, and we can use this to map our all of our tourism experiences. So what I'd like to do now is get you guys to do a breakout room activity, and I've got a couple of those that I want to do that today. So I'm just going to create some breakout rooms, but I'm going to give you a question or a guide here. And I'll post this in the chat, and then I'll post it again for each of the breakout rooms so that you'll be able to see it when you're in a room. So I just want you guys to take an opportunity in small groups to talk about trips that you've recently taken. And I'd like you to create a map of that trip. So describe what the generating region was, describe the transit region, what occurred in the transit region, and describe the destination that you went to. What was it about that destination that drew you there? And then, of course, from an industry perspective, who was involved? Government, different businesses. Was there anything about the environment that you interacted with? So I posted that in the chat. We'll do a breakout room session that will take about 20 minutes. And I'm going to put, okay, I hope you guys had an interesting time discussing a recent trip. I always love to recall some of the different places I've been and stories and ideas about what happened. But we had a purpose here, so I would like to get volunteer group. So I'd asked to pick a person to report out from your little exercise. So I would call for someone who'd be willing to share a little bit about what the tourism system looked like when you applied it to your last trip. Okay, so we have a shy group. That's okay. What I would like, though, is even if you don't want to unmute and make a comment, would be to post in the chat what your trip was, what the generating region was, the transit region, and the destination region. So one person from each of the group should take a second and in the chat just answer those three key region questions. So what was your generating region? Describe just in a sentence the transit region. And what was the destination? Okay, so we have one saying the generating region is Kelowna. For these kinds of things, I'm noting that students are direct messaging to me, but the object of this exercise is to share with the group. So Hersamrat, can you share that with the rest of the group? Arpindi, great, thanks for sharing. I really appreciate that. So you went to the Tulip Gardens, which is in Abbotsford, and then we headed towards Vancouver. So what was your generating region, Arpindi? Generating region is Kelowna. And then what then happened with the transit region. So Kelowna, flight, car, and ferry, Victoria, BC. Wow, that's a lot of transit region. It was our own car? Great. So when we think about, room 5, last summer we took a trip from Kelowna to Seattle by air. Generating region was Kelowna, destination region was Seattle. Perfect. Now, what are some of the tourism industry elements that you interacted with on those trips? Like, where did you stay when you were in Seattle, or when you went down to Abbotsford? Was it a day trip? How long were you gone? You wouldn't want to go to Seattle just for one night, I presume. So 1 week trip, great. And in that trip, did you stay at an Airbnb, a hotel, a hostel? What kinds of accommodation? A hotel, great. And when you were thinking about that trip, when you were in your originating region, which is Kelowna, did you interact with any parts of the tourism system in terms of planning your trip? For example, how did you book your hotel? Expedia is an interesting option because, one, they've just recently merged with Travelocity, but they're an online travel agent, essentially. So one group went to Vernon. Generating region was Kelowna region. Destination region, Vernon. Public transit. Wow. Okay. So, Kirandi, thank you for sharing that. I have a question for your group in particular. If you went from Kelowna to Vernon, is that tourism? Or is that still kind of within your region? Because when we think about defining the system, and we'll get into this in a minute, there are some requirements about how we define what makes a tourist a tourist. So there's some rules about that, right? So if your generating region was Kelowna and your destination region is Vernon, it was a 2-day trip. Okay, so that's definitely, you went and stayed. But again, whether or not that falls into the tourism category is a question we'll answer. But it's a great example. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. A leisure trip with friends. Cal Beach, Box Trail, the Honeybee Farm. So some great attractions, right? So when we look at the things that you did, the museum, the Honeybee Farm, those are things we would call attractions in the generating region. They're pull factors, reasons for us to choose a destination. Great. Wow. From Penticton to India, that's a trip. So, Gamal, how long was your flight from British Columbia to India? I've flown over India, but I've never stopped in India, unfortunately. It's on my bucket list of places to go.
Is it fine if I speak?
Yes, absolutely. Well, that sounds like an absolutely amazing trip. I have a question for you. You stayed in Istanbul. How long were you in Istanbul? Okay, so just a quick layover. Yeah. When my wife and I traveled from Athens to Bangkok, we went through the Istanbul airport. But we were there for 28 hours between flights. So we actually went into Istanbul. It's a beautiful city. But then we flew to Bangkok, so we went right over India. So we got to see it from the air. But again, hopefully one day I'll be able to get my feet on the ground. So that's great. So I appreciate your sharing by voice and in the chat. That's wonderful. So we start to see that, traveling and tourism can encompass a lot of different kinds of trips, whether they're short 1 to 2 day trips, or much bigger trips, like going from Vancouver to India. You wouldn't go to India for 2 days, right? So there's some relationships there. We'll get into issues of scale in our next session, but we have a time scale that we think about here. We've got a distance scale that we think about. And all of those things impact how we define the tourism system. So the next piece that I want to think about working on with you guys is defining what is a tourist. So we've talked about mapping the system in terms of its geographies. But now we need to start thinking about the individual components. And the next key piece is the tourist. So I'd like to do another little exercise where I want you guys to think about defining tourism and what is a tourist. So, and this is critical because if we're going to study it, we need to be able to define it. And one of the critical things from an industry point of view is our ability to measure it. And in order to measure something, we have to define what it is we're measuring, right? So for example, when I was in Whistler, one of my key roles was to estimate how many tourists visited Whistler every year. And that's really important from a planning perspective. So defining who's a tourist and who isn't a tourist is a critical step in understanding the concept of tourism. And what I want to do is use the system that we've just been talking about to define a tourist. So the question is going to be, and again, we're going to try this as a group breakout exercise. So I'm going to choose different groups this time for people. But we're going to spend, again, another kind of 10-minute session on defining what a tourist is in the context of the system. So I'll put the system back up here just to remind us of what we're working for. So in order to be counted as a tourist, we have to engage with the tourism system. But there's some rules about tourism, right? So, I'm going to put some guiding questions in here. So we're going to build our own tourists, essentially here, is build a tourist. So we're going to define what a tourist is in terms of the system. So you're going to have to say where the person is coming from, for example, the generating region, where they're going to, the destination region, and how they get there. And in particular, how far do they have to go? And this speaks back to our example from one of the groups that says we went from Kelowna to Vernon. Does that meet the standard of definition, right? And what are they doing? So what purposes are tourism? So for example, one of the questions you're going to want to ask yourself is, are there purposes for which we travel that aren't tourism? So for example, almost all of you have traveled to Canada, but are you tourists? And why or why not? So again, I want you guys to explore these questions, and the goal here is to kind of build a definition of a tourist. So we'll call this in-class activity, build a tourist. And so I want you to apply the system that I've got up here on the screen to a definition. So your goal here is 2 or 3 sentences, a very short paragraph that defines what a tourist is. And maybe think about what a tourist is not to help you sort of define it. So the goal here is I need a definition that I can apply to a person who is traveling and determine whether or not they fit into our discussion around the system and tourism. So the goal is we want to be able to say, yes, checkbox, this person meets the definitional requirements of being a tourist, or X, this type of travel is definitely not tourism. So think about the relationship between the generating region and the destination region, the transit region, what has to occur there? Does it have to be a particular distance people have to go? And what is that distance? Again, we have to have criteria for yes or no. Questions on what I want to get out of here? So 2 or 3 sentences that define a tourist. Perhaps one sentence for each of the key regions would be a helpful guide. And I'm going to try the breakout rooms again for about 10 minutes on this. Choose a person to report out what your definition is, either to say it out and report to the class, or to pop your definition in the chat so that we can discuss it as a group. All right, great. We'll try that again for 10 minutes, and then we'll have some discussion about what you guys come up with. So here we go. We're off to your rooms. Okay, welcome back, everybody. I think everybody's rejoined, which is awesome. Now, the assignment was to create a 3 or so sentence definition of what tourism is using the model. So I'd like one representative from each of the teams to post what their definition is in the chat, and we can have a quick discussion on what the definition of a tourist is. So take a second, and you can either type it out or copy paste what you were working on into the chat, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about in terms of definitions. Just while we're waiting for our team members to post whatever they managed to get together for their definition, so we have a couple of issues with breakout rooms. So thank you, Group 4. When you're assigned your breakout room, of course, you have to join it. You have to click the join button. I'm noticing that not all students are joining a group, because I get some messages back saying I'm in my room and there's nobody with me. So that's a challenge. So I want to use these kinds of group activities fairly regularly throughout the term, because it gives you an opportunity to discuss with your classmates the different concepts that we're doing, and it's generally, in my opinion, better for you guys to be able to have those kinds of discussions than me talk through the whole session. So we've got a couple. I need a couple more in the chat. So Group 4, great, thanks very much. A tourist traveling to Banff, generating region Kelowna. There are a few places that can be visited in the way. So there could be, and that's a really interesting topic, in the transit region, there can be sort of mini destinations. So we were talking about Istanbul, for example. It was in the transit region for my wife and I when we flew from Athens to Bangkok, but we stopped there as kind of an en route destination, let's call it. So that can be part of the system too. So excellent catch on that. I like it. And, you know, the transit region can be a destination in and of itself. Think about cruise ships, right? And then at Banff, lots of activities like hikes and whatnot. Perfect. Trip of 4 to 6 days. So that's a good duration, right? So that would definitely qualify as tourism, right? A tourism is someone who travels for fun or work. That's often a big question. I often get asked, if I travel for work, am I a tourist? And I think tourism planners would agree that, yeah, you're a tourist, even if you're traveling for work. But there's a caveat there we'll come back to. We use the service of the tourism industry and visit destinations. So again, Kelowna to Disneyland. I haven't done that one. My kid's grown up now and is at UVic, but transit route is air travel. Yeah. It's approximately 5,000 kilometers, right? Duration of a week. So here we're getting some really great ideas, and I appreciate your sharing. There are distances involved, right? There has to be some separation between the generating region and the destination region. There's a question about how big that separation needs to be. And duration, right? There has to be a length of time involved. One of the key things, for example, is if you don't stay overnight, are you a tourist? And the answer to that question is it depends how you define the system. I think it would be worthwhile for you to Google the UNWTO definition of tourism, and it talks about all these things. So room 3, a person or a group of people. So how many people, right? Is another question we can answer in our definition. Coming from a generating region, going to famous places. Yeah, famous places are awesome. I don't know if where you go has to be a famous place or not to be qualified as tourism, but there has to be a transit route and some form of transportation, so that's great. Exploring a destination for a minimum of 3 days, room 3 suggests. Okay, if that's how you want to define your system, that works, right? Not all people who study tourism would use 3 days, but if it fits for what you're trying to do, then you can define your system that way, right? And that's one of the powers of systems thinking, is that we can define our system. For example, when I was in Whistler, we defined our tourism system to include people who came to Whistler from Vancouver for 1 day. We're still tourists. Other people, more commonly, would not call someone who traveled for less than 1 night a tourist. They might call them an excursionist or define them in a different way, but wouldn't get counted into their tourism numbers. So one of the things that I hope you're seeing is that the systems design is powerful in that we can define the system in a way that describes what we're trying to study, but in a way that communicates it effectively to people. So we have Navjot as a tourist when a person leaves their usual environment to travel to different places for more than 2 days. So again, a day, less than 1 night, 1 night or more, 2 nights, 3 days, we have a week. These are all perfectly acceptable ways to define a system. And excellent. Yeah, room 6, perfect. So some great ideas. I'll encourage you to Google when we leave our class today what the UNWTO definition of a system is. Okay, a great exercise, and again, thank you for sharing. Just a note to Harveer, when we're sharing out, I mean, I would love you to share your definition not just directly with me, but to the class, because I think what you're contributing is really valuable, and I want everybody to be able to see it. Yeah, no problem. You don't have to be sorry, but just as a thing for everybody, when we're sharing, it's great to share with me, and I appreciate that. But your input's valuable for everybody to read, and we've got some really great stuff from the chat today. What I want to do for the balance of the session, yeah, thanks very much for sharing with everybody. That's perfect. For the balance of the session, I'm going to create an individual activity for you to do on your own time in the last 50 minutes of the session. So I'm going to create an assignment in Moodle that we're going to do. And basically, it's going to be an activity that we're going to look at sort of the history and evolution of tourism. So we're going to do an activity that I'm going to call Tourism Time Travelers. Okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to assume that you're from the future, and you're coming back and looking at what's happening today in tourism and how we got here. So you're a tourism time traveler. So this could be kind of fun, and try to make some fun of it when you're doing the exercise. And I want you to choose an event or a trend, like, you know, for example, something important in tourism, like the invention of the jet airplane, or some disrupting event like COVID-19. And imagine you're building an exhibit for a future tourism museum. So you're traveling back, let's say, 100 years in time to a particular moment, and you're studying an event and its impact on tourism. So what we're trying to make here is just a sketch, a PowerPoint slide, you know, a Canva or something that relates to what might make an exhibit. And again, I don't want you to spend an enormous amount of time on this thing, but I want you to find one key event that you think was important in the evolution of tourism, and create just a brief sort of graphic illustration of that event and its importance. So I'll post this in the assignment in Moodle that will go under week 1 S1 that you guys can contribute this to. And again, just uploading one PowerPoint slide, or sort of one page with a drawing if you want to upload a drawing, or you can create some kind of graphic using whatever tool you want. Save it as a PDF though, so that I can open it. And you're going to choose a key moment. You're going to describe quickly what happened. How did it change tourism? And why is it a key event? Right? Simple sketch, a concept map, timeline, scan a piece of paper. In whatever way you feel most comfortable sharing, just upload in kind of a one page. I'm not looking for an essay here though. No, I don't want one page written summary. I want you to make it some kind of graphic thing that someone, if you went to, for example, a virtual museum, you might look at as kind of a web page. Are there questions on that? So we'll close the face-to-face session in just a couple of minutes, and this will be your assignment for the last sort of hour. So don't spend more than like 50 minutes doing this, and I'll have a Dropbox for you to upload that in Moodle. You'll get an assessment of this of complete or incomplete. I'll have a look at them, and I'll use them to start off our discussion on Thursday morning. So are there questions about the assignment, what I'm hoping for you guys to get out of it? If not, that's great. We'll end the session. Harleen, it's not quite in Moodle just yet. I'm going to post it there as soon as I sign off. So in the next 5 minutes, if you refresh your Moodle connection, there will be an in-class assignment posted in Moodle under today's tab. So it'll be there in a few minutes. Okay. Also, if you have any feedback about today's session, please don't hesitate to drop me an email. I'll do a little survey after a few sessions that we get into in the class, just to get some feedback about what your experience is. But if you have comments, suggestions, ideas, complaints, please let me know, and I'll help use that to adjust our sessions over the next 7 weeks. But I want to say thanks so much, everybody. I really appreciated your being here. I'm loving your participation. Vansh is asking if there is a due date for this. It'll be midnight tonight. So you can have the rest of the day to spend a few minutes putting your exhibit together. Okay, so that'll be clearly assigned in Moodle. But yeah, no, I appreciated your sharing today. I really appreciate that you came. I'm looking forward to a great few weeks with you guys going through what is my favorite topic, which is tourism. And on that note, I will say goodbye to everybody for today. We will convene 8 a.m. prompt on Thursday, and we're going to look at finishing off this discussion of kind of the history of tourism and getting into the next two topics, which are accommodation and transportation, sort of some of the backbone of the tourism session. So I am going to stay here for another couple of minutes to see if there are any questions that arrive in the chat, and I'll just be building our Moodle assignment here. So it'll be under week 1 S01.